What greater fortune have we in an endless universe of infinite matter and energy? We have been given consciousness to gaze upon it all and understand. What greater fortune have we to live in America, to stand side by side on the 4th of July, to behold this man? What greater fortune!
Democrats are set to take control of the U.S. Senate, House, and the White House.
This will go down as one of the most progressive administrations in American history.
God willing, everything is on the table.
You now can pass things without a filibuster threat.
Oh, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ruthless Variety Program. We hope everyone had as good a 4th of July as we did, and I know that Joey Chestnut did.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, did that announcer like take a Molly before?
That is the all-time greatest hype intro ever.
I mean, I was watching it live, and I literally just wanted to pause the television and redo it like 5 times. You could see the guy with his straw sort of 4th of July hat putting the thing on. Man, he sounded incredible. That's the best hype video of all time. Of all time.
Hands down.
Fortune. Well, that was, anyway, for those of you who didn't follow it, Joey Chestnut, he's the world champion hot dog eater, has been for as long as I can remember. He's an American, which is the important part, because he wins on the 4th of July, and he ate 76 hot dogs.
Yeah, I remember years ago, there was that guy, Kobayashi, who used to be, king of the hill.
Chestnut took him out.
Chestnut, back to back.
Yes, so they did this on the 4th of July, and it was Kobayashi, who I think was from Japan, and he would wear like the Japanese flag on his forehead, and this guy, like straight up American flag, came up and stole it, and I think he's had it ever since. It's been like 10 years.
I mean, it's a great tradition, 4th of July eating contest. I also want to say I'm very disappointed in Jesse Hunt. He was supposed to have an eating contest where he was going to eat 5 pounds of shrimp cocktail in 30 minutes, and he failed to follow through, folks. So if you know Jesse today, let him know we're all disappointed in him. Okay, all right. Well, let me just say 5 pounds of shrimp's a lot, but I mean... Well, it's doable. It's doable. The guy was a college athlete. If you can't put down 5 pounds of shrimp cocktail, put your money where your mouth is.
Have you ever participated in an eating contest yourself, Smug?
Mostly drinking contests. Yeah. Not as much the eating.
Yeah. How about you, Dunks? Ever?
We did it in college once. I did buffalo wings. Puked everywhere.
How many wings did you get down?
Like 45.
I feel like
that's a lot of wings.
I feel like you can do better than that.
You would think so, but it just becomes so monotonous. Just the act of just chewing chicken, and just hot.
It
not
becomes
good.
A texture thing.
Yeah, not good.
Well, I was actively speculating yesterday on Twitter. Like, I love watching the hot dog thing. It's disgusting. It's absolutely revolting to watch.
It's not like eating a normal hot dog. They're like dipping it in water and just like
then they
inhaling
just force it down their throat. But like, I would pay pay-per-view money to have a full day program on what he's doing today.
See, that's the thing.
Like, what does this sound?
Yeah.
So,
what does that look like?
So a lot of folks were like, he was like, I guess, shaking when he was on his way, up to the stage.
Yeah,
and like that's a good question. Like, there's got to be some like documentary on this, like the life these people live, because he put down that has to be what, how many thousand calories? Like that can't be like a normal. You're not.
What does that do to your digestive?
It's not like a
system.
Thanksgiving day, and then you're sleepy. This guy's eating like 76 hot dogs.
I mean, I want to know what the day after 76 hot dogs look like.
Yeah, can't be pretty.
It can't be good. It can't be good. All right, so listen, I had a great 4th. Did a lot of cooking. Had a good time, but I also noticed there was a ton of activity for the Ruthless merch on the internet.
That was good to see.
There was a lot of stuff. I saw a lot of great photos, a lot of people celebrating. You love to see it. God bless America.
You love to see it. There is no better way to celebrate America than with Ruthless merch.
That's
throw
right.
a flag on, throw Ruthless merch. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't gotten any merch yet, go on over to store www.ruthlesspodcast.com, or just go to our website. You'll see the link.
And we're going to start putting all this stuff up. We had a nice last week, but we're going to start putting all this stuff up on Instagram too. So
we you had a great photo from when you were grilling on the 4th, where you had the American flag overalls, and then the Ruthless shirt underneath it. And I saw somebody on Twitter turned it into like a work of art.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
It was well done.
Did I tell you, fellas, I saw my first Ruthless shirt in the wild?
You did?
Yeah, I was out running. Saw someone who was also out running. And I was like, well, that's awesome. I'm not going to like run over and stop you, but hey, dude who was out there on Thursday, good work.
A friend of the program, and a healthy one at that.
A healthy one.
Nice.
I love it. You don't see that every day. That's great. Okay, let's get into it. Guys, did you notice this Chinese... I know this is a thing for you, Smug.
Yeah, this is one of my hot button things.
This is like, we've talked a lot about the choo-choos here, but basically that the entirety of the Biden infrastructure plan and like what they like to do is just build choo-choos.
Yeah.
That's not the way they see it in China.
So essentially, for the Biden administration, any left-wing garbage policy they want, they say is infrastructure. They're like, ballot harvesting is infrastructure. Mayor Pete, choo-choo trains, that's infrastructure. It's because all they want is these are all people who grew up in the Northeast, went to their boarding schools in the Northeast, went to their college in the Northeast. So they think infrastructure, it's like, when I would take the train from New York to New Haven. Folks, that's not infrastructure. China is building a space station, right? They're building a space station. There was an article in the Washington Post recently about, they had satellites pick up photos. China's building like tons of ICBM nuclear silos. All right.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Ones that are capable of flying. Let me see what the number was. It was like 9,000 some miles, which basically means they're capable of hitting the U.S. mainland.
And we're checking out Amtrak.
That's the problem. That's the problem. It's like right now, we're dealing with the administration and the press. They're like, okay, our main coverage of infrastructure is going to be ice cream. Ice cream is infrastructure. What did Biden have today for ice cream?
So what you're referring to is a video over the weekend. Was it on the 4th?
I think it was on the 4th that it dropped.
But did he get 2 scoops? Because I've heard that's terrible.
He did. And see, that's the thing is like...
Remember when Donald Trump got 2 scoops and the whole world freaked out?
It was an international incident. They're like, oh my gosh, he had 2 scoops. So Biden, basically the only thing he's mentally capable of is ordering ice cream at this point.
It looked pretty rough. The order didn't look like it went off without a hitch, though. I'll be honest.
He attacks the thing like an anaconda. And not normal.
Well, I saw that too. We talked a little bit about this, like how you handle state fair food, because we were talking about the Iowa appearance we're all gonna eat a lot of food. And we're probably gonna have contests and whatnot. But there's a political way of handling all of that, right? So you don't get the picture,
right,
that makes you look like you're attacking it like an anaconda.
Yeah, right. Well, so you had a corn dog. You do that thing with 2 hands. You rip off a little a piece of it.
Yeah.
And you pop it in your mouth.
Nobody wants to just stick the corn dog.
Right. You get a huge waffle cone of ice cream. You get a spoon. You eat it like an adult.
Well, here's the thing: is I never even get a waffle cone. I mean, this is the most ridiculous approach to eating ice cream. The thing's gonna melt. It's gonna be all over your hands. It's a goddamn mess.
Right.
Get it in a cup. Like even when the Mr. Softy truck would roll up, it's a hot day. I'd be like, all right, I want the cone, but put it upside down in a cup because I still want the waffle cone.
It's an interesting question because I too find myself ordering in the cup.
Yeah, get the waffle cone and then ask them for a large drink cup. Then you put it upside down.
Or you can get the crushed up waffle cone as a topping in the cup.
I'm not going to hassle the guy, man.
Cone. Right. If you're big on the cone.
There's a line at the truck. I'm not demanding 5-star service. Crush up the waffle cone.
Well, I'm just saying, if you go into an ice cream shop, it's one of the toppings that they provide. I'm not asking for something special.
This guy's rolling up to the ice cream truck wanting valet.
Yeah. He's like, hey, take my keys. And a double scoop while you're at it.
Well, that's the other crazy thing is, so like when I saw the video, Biden is like, 2 scoop ice cream, right? And they're like, what the hell? Is this guy going to fall out? And then they're like $15. I was like, what? Like, talk about Biden inflation, $15.
So I saw that too. Was it just his ice cream that was $15?
I don't know if they're like.
Was he buying for the store?
$15.
That's a pricey ice cream outfit.
That is. And then they're like, meanwhile, theoretically, you could have saved 16 cents.
I saw
on
that.
I'm
incredible.
shocked at this messaging.
Yeah.
That came from the White House. They're like, you could possibly save 16 cents, even though every measure, we can go down to the science. The CPI keeps going up. Economists are worried about that. We weren't supposed to be facing this kind of inflation, but the White House is straight up lying.
Yeah,
yet again.
In case you missed that, our dear listeners, the White House really leaned into this idea that Biden saved you a bunch of money on your 4th of July celebration by basically cherry picking like 4 items and being like, congratulations, you saved 16 cents. Sure, gas is twice as expensive, and if you travel anywhere, you will eat into any supposed profit you have. But, look at us.
And
we did it. We did it.
And it's just like such an insult to the American people where like you have Kamala Harris's kid is out in Saint-Tropez on a yacht, right? The same day that the White House is saying, hey guys, maybe you peasants can enjoy your 16-cent cheaper meal.
Yeah.
That's a tough look. Ugh. Well, look, in case you're too depressed about American decline, there was one little bit of news that I thought was interesting. We're apparently now capable, or trying to be capable, of shooting down asteroids.
Finally, some good news.
Wasn't that what was that movie? Wasn't it Independence Day or whatever?
No, it was
Deep Impact.
It was not Apocalypse.
Deep Impact, right?
No. That was when the asteroid hit us.
Oh,
it was the
okay.
Bruce Willis one.
Yeah,
Armageddon. There we go.
Armageddon. There it is.
I knew we'd get there, guys.
Yeah,
Good work.
yeah. So anyway, we can do that. Or
that
at
movie
least
owns. I love it so much.
there was a story in the Boston Globe about how we're trying to do that, basically. That we've prepared for century-long pandemics.
Yeah.
We've prepared for, all kinds of things. What they're trying to prepare against is a asteroid that is coming to the Earth that destroyed basically the dinosaurs. Right?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And they're thinking like, yeah, that seems like it's plausible, right? So we ought to have something, some kind of a space laser to deal with that. Apparently we're working on it.
So I'm looking at this article now. It says, developed by a team of scientists from the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory and NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office.
Just did the
DART. They're calling it DART, Double Asteroid Redirection Test.
Can we just
He
stop?
said laboratory.
Can we stop? What's with the laboratory?
It's like how he says Peloton for Peloton. How is it you say Nevada?
I'm just getting bullied. This is unbelievable.
Oh, we went to the laboratory, and then we was mission design.
Yeah, Sherlock, we're in the laboratory.
Oh, good. Doomsday, sir. This is the only test.
Trying to educate the folks about our planetary
defenses. Look.
And yet again, I'm being attacked for presenting new ideas.
I'm glad they're doing this. So just to clarify, this asteroid that they're going to target isn't an actual threat to us, though. This is basically a dry run, right?
Right.
But that's good.
Yeah, no, I kind of take. That was like one piece of good news. I thought, we can blow up a thing.
I'm just a little worried that, it's on us, the United States of America, to worry about this while China's building all these missile silos to ostensibly attack us.
Yeah, right. I wonder what's going
worried
on
about
the space
planet.
station.
Yeah, we're worried about the planet, and they're unleashing hell pandemics and building ICBM missile silos.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point.
They're like, who cares about mutually assured destruction if they can get Xi up in the space station when they pop off?
That's right. Exactly. We'll be stuck in the laboratory. We just sit around here. Anyway, all right. No, listen. That's a good piece of news. More news. I feel like the biggest thing that's come out of last weekend is Hollywood news.
It's huge. You know what we should do? Let's get some Hollywood Henn.
Oh, and also, a special treat. We have new music for Hollywood.
Oh, intro.
So let's play that intro music.
Boy, that's a nice touch. That's a nice touch.
That's some great music.
I like the shutters.
Yeah,
I
feel like I'm on the red carpet.
Yeah, it's like you just popped right out of the limo onto the red carpet
with my Louboutins and all.
And you're here to give us the news.
So good. Henn, you got an action-packed agenda here.
Oh my goodness, yeah, we have a lot to cover.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the breeziest stuff first, which is the couple news. Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton have officially tied the knot. On July 4th, they got married at Blake's ranch in Oklahoma. It was, for us, a surprise wedding. I don't know, such a surprise for them. But they were engaged for 8 months, and everyone was kind of wondering when the wedding would take place. And now they're finally officially married.
Because they never really set a date.
They never set a date. They didn't really give tons of details other than Blake being like, I'm not planning this thing. If it were left to me, this would not be a classy affair. That's the kind of vibe he gave off.
Dude seems like authentically Oklahoma.
Yeah. And I didn't realize, I'm going to take this as one of my women wins because Gwen Stefani's 51 and he's 45.
Whoa.
And so I'm going to go ahead and say this is a win for her.
Whoa, that's a controversial take.
Yeah.
Smug,
I'm going to go for that.
Who's got the higher net worth?
I don't know.
I'm betting she does.
I don't know.
Man.
Those no doubt residuals are.
He's made a lot on The Voice too.
Isn't she also on one of those singing shows?
She is, but I don't think she's like as
Well,
permanent.
I think they met on The Voice.
Yeah,
didn't
they did.
Yeah. I don't know. We're gonna jury's out, but that's a good submission.
Yep. Thank
that
you.
could
Thank you.
potentially be Gwen Stefani robbing the cradle.
People can tweet us about it and see where they stand.
Okay.
Although I tend to get hammered on Twitter all the time.
That's right.
So
you're gonna get 10 replies that say dudes rock.
I know. No matter what the scenario. Nope. It's in some cases very inappropriate when they say dudes rock.
Well, that's all in the eye of the beholder. What else do we got?
Okay, another one. This might be a surprise for people, but another woman win. It has been reported that Angelina Jolie and The Weeknd were spotted at a couple dinner dates this past week.
Wait, you're just going to claim that as a woman win?
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
come on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me tell you, in a weird way, it's because Angelina Jolie is no prize at this point.
Yeah, she's up there in the years, right?
And the fact that she's got The Weeknd, absolutely that's a win for her.
Wait, is The Weeknd the supermodel? Is this...
He's not a supermodel. He's a young hot thing who's making tons of money, doing his, in his peak and his prime.
He played the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he did play the Super Bowl. Remember the mirrors and the walking through, and he couldn't find his way out, and I was confused by that.
It is a downgrade. He was with what's her name, the model, the smoke show. What's her name?
Bella Hadid.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's walked into Angelina Jolie, who's in this like terrible divorce situation with Brad Pitt. Still, she has 6 kids. Is like,
are they not fully
mess.
separated or something?
They're still working out the details. And like the custody and everything.
Yeah,
it's a disaster.
Honestly, that is a win for her.
Yeah. Yes, Smug.
That's an uncontested win.
She kissed her brother at one point.
Yeah, and remember, dude, she had one of the biggest, and she had the vial of blood.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, within a matter of moments, they were like, Angelina Jolie is a saint after stealing somebody else's husband.
Yeah.
On top of all of that.
Oh yeah, the Brad Pitt thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like she had all these things, and then all of a sudden she became the like every woman's girl crush. Every celebrity would be like, oh, Angelina Jolie, and it's like, no, this girl is not.
Ooh, and I will say, Jen Aniston is looking much better than Angelina Jolie.
Oh, 100%.
She does those like commercials for her products.
Well, the one guy that always wins is Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's true.
Win no matter what.
Dudes rock.
I will.
You know what? I will say that's the winner here.
Brad Pitt wins.
Jolie and Weeknd.
I knew we'd get there. I knew we'd get there.
There it is.
It's a victory.
Yeah. We had to hunt around for it, but here we are.
Holmes, you got an assist on that.
I did. I did a setup. Okay. All right. Well, those are good couple news.
And then a follow-up to one of the stories that we did before. Some Nick Cannon news.
Oh yeah.
He his girlfriend just gave birth to his 7th child just 9 days after welcoming twins with his former flame.
So twins, 5, 6. So he went from 4 to 7 in under a month.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he's almost doubled up.
It's a lot.
This guy's setting up franchises.
It's a lot.
So he's stagger starting. So
yes.
he's got new girlfriend, old girlfriend.
Within 9 days.
Wow.
I just you try to go back some months and do some math on that, and that is
but
interesting.
The hospital has to give like a volume discount at this point. It's like he shows up, he's got a punch card. I'm like, all right, we got a room.
Hey, thanks for the business.
It's like a freaking flyer program for Nick Cannon.
But wait. 7 kids. Do we have like a elapsed time or any idea how if they all come this rapid fire?
No, so he had this kid recently, then he had twins 9 days before, and then he welcomed a daughter in December.
So he
with
Wait,
whom,
so he has 4 in a calendar year so far.
with who he also shares a 4-year-old son with, and then he has twins with Mariah.
That's right. He's got twins with Mariah. That is a super dude.
So he's got twins with Mariah, another kid, and then he has 4 in a calendar year. And we're not done. He's got like 5 months left. Who knows what's out there?
I mean, it's just wild, reckless behavior, Nick Cannon.
I mean,
that's a huge one. I mean, starting with what's Mariah's net worth? She's like
oh,
up
Jesus.
there.
Dude, I don't know, but
Smug figured out a way to get there to a win.
The amount
she
of
is
child
seriously
support,
up there.
The amount of child support he's going to have to be paying for all of these kids, I'm not sure that's a win. You kind of
I mean, he
reach that,
makes good money. He makes really good money.
But you reach
he's
that
the host
tipping
of that,
point.
that Masked Singer or whatever?
Yeah, and the show's a huge hit. I mean, the guy's getting his money. And kids, good for him. Nick Cannon
he's
stays
getting
winning.
his money, and then it's going straight out the door.
Yep. Well,
it's literally generational wealth. That's what this guy's building.
Unbelievable.
All right, what else do we have?
I mean, I don't even know. Okay, last couple news, and then we'll get into some more heavy hitting stuff. But this is really for you, Holmes.
Yeah.
Your man Pete Davidson.
Yes, dude, I love this guy.
He was seen with his new girlfriend Phoebe. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but she was on the show Bridgerton. But they were seen at their first public event appearance at Wimbledon this weekend.
So this guy,
they were seen kissing and laughing at the famed tennis tournament.
We've covered this guy before, but his deal is he's probably one of the, I don't know, top 10 most unattractive men who are consistently on television.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, no question, he's just not a very good looking
kind
guy.
of right behind Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, right. He kind of has a little bit of that vacant eye look.
He has all those like tattoos. You know, I'm not a tattoo kind of guy. He's got these like ridiculous tattoos all over him.
He is also in the news about because he's getting them all laser removed.
All of them?
Is he really?
Yes, all of them. And he
has sleeves.
He says it's going to take 2 years to get all of his tattoos removed.
Why would he get them removed? Oh, he's crazy.
He's crazy.
But the thing that you got to know about him is the man puts up stats better than anyone in the biz.
He really does.
I mean, we had...
This Phoebe girl is very attractive. I did not watch Bridgerton, but she's smoke show. Very cute.
If you look at a short list of the women that have dated Pete Davidson,
it's
I have it.
It's 100% he sold his soul. Like you look at this list, it's just like
it's Kaya Gerber, Cindy Crawford's daughter,
who looks exactly like her,
except hotter.
Yeah.
Ariana Grande, Kate Beckinsale, and Larry David's daughter, Cassie David, who's also shockingly attractive, and you would not expect that.
I remember the Kate Beckinsale thing. Like, I think it was in New York or LA. They're just like walking out, and he's just like takes Kate Beckinsale with him. You're going with me.
I mean,
it's like,
just can't.
Bro.
And now Phoebe. It's just
the guy's. He's got a secret sauce
Dude,
somewhere.
you know, it's just proof. I mean, if you're funny, you can get away with a lot.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. But he's not that funny. I mean, I guess he's kind of funny.
It's kind of funny.
I think he's like he clearly doesn't take himself that seriously, and I think it's particularly disarming.
Yeah, sometimes just not trying.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't want to come off like I'm actually criticizing him because I'm not. I think this is the most amazing feat of accomplishment. Like, you remember in the early 90s when, like, Lyle Lovett, that old country singer, started dating
Julia Roberts?
Yes. Everybody's like, what in the world? And then it turns out he had like 3 or 4 connections to like super hot movie stars. And you're like, dude, what's going on with that? This guy's got the same thing going on.
Yeah, he does.
It's nobody can actually figure it out. But I'll wager to say that list that you provided, Henn, probably the tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah, I think that's just within like the last couple of months, maybe like a year.
What an amazing feat of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one thing I wanted to add for the couple news. Is there was a photo of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez out, and they're now wearing athleisure wear. So like his dude's rock mindset of like, I'm not gonna wear anything but like sweatpants and t-shirts
rubbing off.
is spreading.
However, I would say, you know, that the title of that picture was that Ben Affleck's getting buff again because J-Lo's making him get buff.
Oh.
And so I think that puts a little kink in the whole thing.
No, dude's rock.
Dude's
getting in shape.
No, dude's rock. She is, in fact,
she's forcing him to get in good shape.
She's providing him free training services.
Totally. There you go.
Dude's rock.
Oh,
that's a huge win.
I feel like you're never going to get these guys on
No,
that one,
and quite frankly, too, to Pete Davidson, I feel like he's kind of the ultimate dude's win. Like, I have no words for that.
Yeah, it's the ultimate
It's just,
dude's win.
there's nothing there.
All right.
So that's a lot of the couple news that we just ticked through. So the big news that was that came out this weekend was the New Yorker put out a very, very intense and long article on Britney Spears and her conservatorship.
This was the Ronan Farrow piece.
Yes. And it's kind of, it had details that have not come out before. And, it really was a very good systematic look at her whole life too, and everything that led to where she is and where she is now. I highly recommend the article.
Let me just ask you, because I know you went all the way through it. Is there anything in there that would justify what's been going on? Is there anything that gave you pause?
No, no, not really. And honestly, so I was of the opinion that back in the day, I was like, oh well, the conservatorship did kind of save her life. Maybe it was good back when she was going through all these problems. But after reading this article, I actually changed my mind. It should never have been put in place. Not because she wasn't struggling and maybe had some things going on, but after reading it, it's the extent of a conservatorship
too far.
Is so far. It's what they should have done is, you know what, Britt? Let's get you out of Hollywood and back to Louisiana for a moment and collect ourselves. How about that?
Or put a trust together to
right,
safeguard
exactly.
our money
There were other steps that could have been taken. And so now I'm of the opinion that no, it never should have been. Obviously, we don't know what we don't know, and everybody always has to say that to cover their tracks. But it was really eye-opening. There's a couple of things that I would like to point out for the group. First reported recently, before she testified at the end of June, Spears herself called 911 to report herself as a victim of conservatorship abuse.
Oh.
So before she spoke for the first time to the court, this article was reporting that she called 911 to
so there is
try
a
to
record.
get them involved, which is pretty wild.
Dude, didn't the conservatorship appoint the lawyer that's representing her?
Yes.
Yeah. No wonder she had to call 911.
Right.
She can't trust her own lawyer.
She can't trust anybody.
So I read the whole article. I mean, it's a very, very long article because it goes in depth on everything. And first off, the last thing you want is Ronan Farrow investigating you because the dude digs in and he finds everything.
And people talk to him.
Yeah. So he got all this info. One of them, I think the lawyer that so the other thing is she's paying for all this. All this comes out of her money.
Right.
The lawyer who essentially is supposed to be her advocate, I guess, but is essentially being controlled by the conservatorship, i.e. her father, is paid something like $458,000 a year for his job, and she is allowed only $400,000. So she has to pay her lawyer more than her own salary.
More than she's allowed to take herself.
Incredible.
And she has I remember they also said she has a weekly allowance of money that she can spend of $2,000. And she was out at a meal with people on a tour, and she was I can't afford this.
And she was it was her hairdresser, and she was I can't afford to pay you right now. I only get $2,000, whatever it was.
So the thing is something's going to happen on this. I mean, what I think mystifies me the most is all of these judges sort of dismissing her complaints and her attempts to get out, and without any real explanation. Right. And you want to assume they're not explaining because they're trying to withhold details that would be damning or whatever, which is why you have to say, we don't know what we don't know. But without any more detail, I guarantee you there's going to be a legislative action on this. Whether it happens in California, whether it happens federally, there's no way that you can demonstrate that a person as big and famous as Britney Spears can be their life entirely ripped away from them in America without any sort of due process.
She's not even allowed to own her own cell phone. And the article talks about how she had to steal other people's cell phones and get people to drop her off burner phones so she can make a phone call. She can't drive her own car. I mean, it's just.
And the article closed with this really, I think it was a great thought. It was this overarching thought that weaved through the entire article of where it said that part of being a person and living life is making mistakes and being able to learn from them. And the thing with this conservatorship is let's say it goes away and I don't know, something happens bad, right? That's going to be used oh, well, I guess she needed a conservatorship, So it's there's no way for her to get out and live a normal life, because no matter what, they'll be oh, see, this is what happens when we aren't controlling her life. It's a horrific situation.
They talked about the dignity of risk in the article.
Yeah.
We should have the dignity and the ability to take risks and to make mistakes and not be totally. But I have to say, as I'm reading all of this stuff, and this was kind of tweeted about too, I can't remember who tagged me in it, But the conservatorship, I started to think in my crazy brain, is a little bit of a metaphor for how Democrats want to run things.
Oh.
You know, it's like they think they know what's best.
Oh, that's great.
They want to be in control of your money, of your person, of your culture, of everything else. And all under the auspice of, we don't want you to make a mistake. We don't want you to fail. So we'll come and do this for you.
God, that's good.
We'll give you an allowance.
Right, exactly.
For all the trouble, we'll take more than you.
Here's your $2,000 check. Pat you on the head.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just saying all these, take note, people.
That's so good, Henn. Well, listen, you only get that kind of analysis here on the Variety program.
That's right.
That's
outstanding.
Right.
I love it. Thank you, Hollywood Henn. Thank you for all of it.
Next update, July 14th is the next hearing. So.
Got it. Perfect. All right. That was a hell of an update. All right, we have to run a quick victory lap. The Supreme Court, at the end of last week, we didn't get a chance to comment on it, made 2 decisions that made libs absolutely, their heads explode.
Yeah.
Explode.
What's his name? Millhouse, Ian Millhouse, or whatever everyone calls him, Millhouse. He was like, I am too traumatized by these Supreme Court decisions. I'm like taking some days off Twitter. It's like, man.
So there were a fair number of conservatives that were wringing their hands like, when are we going to get the good, Supreme Court decisions that we all sort of banked on but judges and all that stuff. Well, they came. They showed up. There were 2 big ones. The first one, which everybody should be incredibly focused on, was an Arizona decision that was challenging essentially if they could legislate things like banning ballot harvesting, right, or implementing voter ID, right, really like uninvasive procedures that basically just try to get the integrity of a vote, right? But of course that was tied up in court, and it went to the Supreme Court, and they said, of course you can ban ballot harvesting, and the left went bonkers. I mean bonkers. But it wasn't even just the left. If you read the news coverage, what they would say is this: almost every article said, we have opened up a new era where the court is allowing restrictions on voting.
Right.
Restrictions.
It's a restriction on voting if a Democratic operative can't knock on your front door and demand your ballot from you.
Hand you a ballot, make you fill it out, and then take it back.
Right.
And do that thousands of times. I mean,
that's a voter restriction.
That's a voter restriction
in their minds.
A voter ID.
Yeah.
Having an ID to prove you are who you are is a restriction.
I also want to touch on that real quick because so you had this weekend James Clyburn, congressman from South Carolina, was like, you know what? I think I'm open to voter ID, which is great when you see a Dem say that because like I said, they saw the polling. Right? They saw the polling. And then you go back a couple years and he said, voter ID laws are Jim Crow. You know? That's been the message. And I think that's just like a microcosm of the entire Dem mindset right now is whatever they want to push, their blitz is going to say, if you disagree, you're a racist. If this policy is Jim Crow 2.0, or like Biden said, it's more than Jim Crow, it's Jim Eagle, like whatever that means. So they blitz you and say, oh, if you don't agree, you're a racist. And then they see the poll numbers and they're like, oh, whoops.
It's become a political tactic, as you just said, Smug.
Yep.
The casual nature by which Democrats feel comfortable accusing people of racism is truly alarming.
It is.
Truly alarming.
We've mentioned it here previously on the program, and back in the beginning of this conversation where, again, the President of the United States on national television in his press conference said that these voting laws are Jim Crow 2.0, has never been asked to apologize for that or clarify that in light of everything that's happened since then, and these Democrats saying, oh, well, voter ID is okay, actually. No, they called it Jim Crow 2.0, and what we said at the time was that this is no longer a debate, this is a war, that we aren't actually having a debate about voting rights. When you have an opposition who will just call you racist, there's no point in arguing it. And that's why I'm so glad the court stepped in and did something smart. And now, states like Arizona can bring some integrity back into the process.
Totally. I mean, and states are doing that. But again, like just to revisit, Jim Clyburn went from Jim Crow to it sounds good.
Yeah.
In the course of 2 months on voter ID.
It's something else.
I mean, this is supposed to be somebody we listen to for advice and thoughtful counsel on race relations.
Right.
This is the guy that Democrats point to and say, no, we have an adult who has thoughtful, like real world experience to rely on.
Right.
This is the guy that went for 2 months. He went from Jim Crow to it's okay.
And the media just ran with these talking points without ever stopping and thinking about how absurd they are. Like how many years has the American public been told black people are incapable of getting themselves an ID? That's the most absurd, ridiculous argument, and it was treated as fact by these journalists. And now you're seeing the Dems who saw the polling realize, oh, we can't run with this made-up garbage anymore. It's going to hurt us in the polls.
But think about seeing polling and making it change your mind about calling something or someone Jim Crow.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just a conservative thing that these things cut deep. And like, you know, where I grew up, if you called somebody a racist, it's about as bad as anything you can call somebody.
Yeah.
Right? It's a character flaw. It is telling, and it is a problem for somebody if they are a racist. These guys throw it around about things that they don't actually believe. They're just political targets.
And I think it's because they saw it's a weapon that they could use, so they just completely weaponized it.
I mean, it tells you
everyone who
everything.
disagrees is racist.
Well, and
that's
so-
their playbook.
And I'm so glad we have a guest on today who's going to talk on, you know, critical race theory, because, you know, that's the next fight here.
Yeah.
And the people like Jim Clyburn, like you said, Holmes, who we're supposed to look to for, you know, counsel on racial matters in this country, is an abject liar.
Yeah.
And you know, the people pushing this critical race theory are that as well.
Which is so sad, you know? I mean, the fact that just partisanship can shape, because look, Clyburn has been a leader, right?
He's the reason Joe Biden is president. He's the reason he won him the primary.
And like, I don't agree with a single thing of his politics, but it's hard to argue that he's not like one of the most prominent African American voices in American politics.
Right.
He just is. But the fact that pure partisanship can talk somebody like that from Jim Crow to it's okay tells you everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party. I mean, if you're willing to go there, that's the thing I'm sorry I'm getting worked up about it, but if you are known to try to be a sensible voice for this country, to try to bind people together, and you throw it away on something like a voter ID requirement, man, that says a lot about you.
Yep.
It says a lot about you.
Sad.
It's really disappointing. All right. So the other case I'll just mention quickly was in California. Democrats have been trying for at least 15 years to try to do away with nonprofit activity whatsoever. They want to disclose members or people who have contributed to nonprofits.
Right.
Basically so they can just like troll them out of existence.
Yeah, intimidate them, shame them, cancel them,
And
all
you
the
saw
things
cases
see.
out there where, like, I guess it was the CEO of like Sun Micro gave to a Catholic charity, and then just activists at the company were like, wow, you gave to someone who we disagree with, and they just pushed him out of a job.
Yeah, and it was done, right?
Done.
And this has happened all over the country. Well, in California, they tried to legalize it formally. The AG Becerra, now the HHS guy, tried to implement a deal where you would actually have to disclose all of your donors, and he did implement it. Of course, they were sued in the Supreme Court, which is just awesome on First Amendment issues. Just tossed it.
It's so great, and they've been trying to do this on the federal level.
Yeah.
As we've discussed.
Yeah, that was the Disclose Act.
The
that
Disclose
they called.
Act.
Yeah.
And the grand irony of this, of course, is that the left and, you know, their billionaire funders contribute to a network of nonprofits that is like multiples, like 3x, 5x what there is on the conservative side.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that the thing in typical liberal fashion, the thing that they complain about, they're doing.
Yeah, like one of their largest contributors is that Swiss billionaire, something
the Swiss billionaire
who's giving like millions and millions to these like dark money groups. But of course, they're like, oh no, see, that's okay. That's okay.
It's because they want to target corporations. It's all about corporations. They want to target businesses that make investments in conservative causes. They could care less if they fund. I mean, if they fund the entirety of the Democratic Party, the neoliberals are fantastic.
The same way that they did in Georgia with the like All-Star game boycott. You know, that's what they're trying to do here. They want to name and shame And then the irony is, like, there's precedent. Like the NAACP,
Alabama.
Yeah, they were protected their donor list because they're like, we don't want people who give to us to face, attacks.
Yeah, in the late 60s, there were a bunch of challenges in Alabama to the NAACP to unveil their donor list. Well, you know what that was about.
Yep.
Right? You know what that was about. And so the Supreme Court at the time said you can't do that. These guys are trying to do the same thing, and somehow it doesn't occur to them that that's the same thing that's happening.
Right.
It's just incredible.
It's so funny. It's like that that meme you see, woke and racist. We actually agree.
Yes.
It's so funny.
Oh
It's
my
like,
gosh, so true.
They are the Ku Klux Klan, and they don't even know it.
They don't even know it. All right, so the next topic we got to get to, because we watched Biden roll to a G7, and with his chest out saying he's going to tell Putin what to do about this ransomware attacks. I mean, just as a reminder, we had the Colonial Pipeline in America that shut down all fuel to the northeast of this country, basically crippled commerce for better part of a week, if not more. And then there was the largest meat packing plant or meat processing plant in the world that was hacked. And it's all coming out of Russia, evidently. And so Biden was like, all right, I'm going to take care of this. Well, that was like, 10 days ago?
It's hilarious because, the press was like, oh, wow, look at our brave and wise Biden out there. He's going to show Putin what's up. And, he rolls up to Putin and apparently tells him, here's a list of 16 things that would be awful if you were to attack them. Right?
Yeah, these should be off limits.
Right?
All these things.
Just I want you to know these are critical to our country.
Yeah.
Don't attack them.
This is our most critical infrastructure, and it would cripple us if you were to attack these. And Putin's like, you know what? Thanks for the tip,
thanks.
dude.
Yeah, it's like giving a pedophile your kid's class schedule.
He's like, he gives him basically all the info that Putin would want, and then what happens? This is like straightforward from here, folks.
Yeah.
It says massive ransomware attack. A broad array of businesses and public agencies were hit by the latest attack, apparently on all continents, including in financial services, travel, and leisure. Though few large companies, the cybersecurity firm Sophos reported, ransomware criminals, they break in, they put in this malware, they demand money. Apparently there was a grocery store, I think it might have been in England, that also got hit by this. And none of the cash registers in their 200 locations worked. They had to close down, right?
So 2 weeks after Biden's drawn a hard line.
Oh, yeah.
Putin's like, oh, that's sweet. Thanks.
Yeah, good
Thanks,
job.
old man.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot more of this. And they said that they're shifting their tactics because, like, in the case of that, meat packing place and the oil pipeline, they were like, we want $4 million in Bitcoin. These guys are demanding, they just hit a ton of companies, and they're only demanding, $45,000 each only.
So they just pay it.
Yeah. So that's a new approach. They're trying to figure out the best way to get paid because they know Biden's asleep at the wheel. And told him what to hit.
Let me just say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If I was president of the United States, there would not be a stoplight in Moscow that worked.
Yeah.
Until this stops, I would cripple every single thing on the internet. There would be no internet in Russia.
Hell yeah.
Right? Because why would you put up with this? Why? There's no plausible deniability. Can you imagine if our country had this crew that was just basically systemically taking down every bank in Europe, and they looked at us and we're like, I don't know.
I mean, we need to apply, the same rules of engagement with cyber crime that we did with terrorism.
Exactly.
In Afghanistan.
That's my point.
If you harbor these people, you're aiding and abetting terrorism.
Exactly.
And that should be the message to Putin. Of course, when Donald Trump was president, there was a lot of hemming and hawing. Oh, he's not being forceful enough with Vladimir Putin. Well, here's Biden being asked, on July 3rd, he was asked, is Putin behind this? He says he's not sure. Not sure.
Not sure.
And everyone's like, oh.
But not sure is not good enough. It's happening in his country.
Right.
It doesn't matter if he's connected to it or not.
I'll tell you this, none of this happened under Trump. The media pushed this fake, absolute garbage Russia narrative because they needed some reason to tell them why Hillary lost, and her and Irritana essentially cooked up this whole Russia hoax of, my God, Vladimir Putin took over our election. The election was hijacked, and Donald Trump is a secret KGB agent, and that's why he's soft on Russia. Yeah, okay, he put missile silos in Eastern Europe, right? Putin's not a fan of that. None of these ransomware attacks happened under Trump. Meanwhile, you've got Biden who shows up. Any situation where he's not just walking up to a counter and ordering ice cream, he just falls on his face. The guy, think about this.
Even that was a little bit of a high wire act, I'll be honest.
He told Putin, this is our most critical infrastructure. This is how you would screw us. And everyone, all the media is like clapping like seals, like, good job.
Good work, Joe. Fantastic. Anyway, it's something to keep an eye on. This is only going to become a bigger story. Mm-hmm. This is only going to, until it is actually addressed in some meaningful way, maybe by a future president, honestly, I think it's a big deal. Anyway, let's get to our interview. This is Chris Rufo, who, gosh, for those of you who don't know him, he's one of the most thoughtful, sort of intellectual leaders of a modern right, and he didn't come that. We've talked to a lot of guests, actually, who they were like, yeah, I was a huge liberal, as a progressive, and then all of a sudden I looked around and none of this made sense to me.
Dave Rubin, perfect example.
Exactly. Yeah. Dave Rubin was a perfect example. Well, this is another perfect example. He talks about it, but he did documentaries for PBS, for crying out loud, and now here he is sort of at the forefront of trying to push back on critical race theory. Chris Rufo. I want to welcome to the program Chris Rufo. He's an award-winning director and a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Chris, how are you?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, you might very well be the number one enemy of the progressive left right now. I mean, how did that happen?
I don't know. Those used to be all of my friends and colleagues. I spent 10 years as a documentary filmmaker. I was very much immersed in the world of the left, had a big change of heart, and now I find myself totally sideways to it. And the number one target right now. And it's been a lot of fun. I know that's probably scary to a lot of people, the idea that you'll be, placed in that position. But for me, it's been a lot of fun. It's really tested my skills, tested my wits, tested my courage, and I'm loving it.
So for those of you who don't know the background here, the progressive left basically accuses Chris of entirely manufacturing the outrage over critical race theory. And the reality is that he's been leading the fight and trying to shine a light on what's happening in school districts, basically what's happening all across this country with regards to critical race theory. And you have really pushed some buttons, my man.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what I've been doing for almost exactly a year now is original reporting that's always based on source documents that are leaked to me from whistleblowers or leaked to me from sources within institutions. I did a number of stories on the federal government that led President Trump to issue an executive order to ban these critical race theory trainings from the government. When Joe Biden won the presidency, I shifted over into education. I broke a series of, I think, 13 or 14 stories showing exactly what's happening inside the classroom using documents, videos, hard evidence. And these stories exploded, and they really ignited this fight where now we see parents all over the country rallying at school board meetings saying, get this divisive race theory curriculum out of these schools. And I think what's happened is that it's really kind of put a spotlight on exactly what's happening with hard evidence that can't be debated. These are original documents. You can read them yourself. I always post all of the materials in their original format. And it's a supreme embarrassment for the ideologues of the left because the material is so atrocious. Mm-hmm. Even the New York Times, even the New Yorker, even, other publications, they're so embarrassed by it. Even when they're attacking me for being the messenger, they say, well, this stuff is bad. This stuff does actually not work. This is pretty offensive. We don't like this stuff. So they have this really funny simultaneous motion where they're attacking me with one hand, but they're also retreating on the other hand. And I think consequently, they haven't landed any punches against me. And I just keep beating them up over and over every time I release a new story. Well,
their go-to it seems to me is to just sort of deny the existence, right? They're like, oh, well, I may have found a source document somewhere with some crazy person that put it out, but this isn't real. It's not widespread. And then you keep coming back for more and coming back for more and showing on, like, without a doubt that it's happening in a widespread manner. And yet you continue to hear from the left, wow, this is not really, Rufo's making this up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the idea is like critical race theory is not taught in K through 12 schools. It's like critical race theory is Bigfoot or it's the Loch Ness monster. I mean, it's like, you know, they want you to think critical race theory is, you know, the federal government is investigating it with their UFO, you know. I mean, but the evidence is really clear. And I think not only in my reporting, and that's why I released a lot of reports. I wanted to release a large body of evidence. And then this is spun off. Now, other journalists at the Daily Caller, at the Daily Wire, at National Review, at Real Clear Politics, it's spun off into its own genre where there's now a lot of different reporters writing on this. So we've collected hundreds of examples. My own personal database of leaked sources is about 5,000 people, which suggests that this is very widespread, given that I'm only one person and, you know, people sending this to me. But everyone knows this. I mean, if you are a parent in the United States today and you have kids in public school, you've seen the emails, you've seen the curricula, you've seen the school board minutes. I mean, people really know what's happening. And I think what I did is not so much, you know, invented it. That's the idea. Oh, he invented this kind of fictitious thing. It's like, no, I explained it to people because parents all year since the death of George Floyd, since the lockdown, since they started having a window into classrooms because of remote education, parents intuitively understood something was happening in their kids' classrooms, in their workplace, in their churches, in their local institutions, but they didn't have the vocabulary to speak about it. And what I did is I gave them a framing. I said, all of these ideas that your moral sense is setting off an alarm bell. You're saying, this doesn't feel right. This seems wrong. This is upsetting. This isn't what we should be having in our institutions. But I said, all of these ideas, these kind of seemingly disparate things, derive from the overarching framework of critical race theory. Here's what critical race theory is. Here are the core concepts. Here are the core texts. Here's how it relates to all these curricula. These are the words and phrases and language that you should use in talking about it. And it gave a lot of people confidence because these are racial issues, very hard for people to discuss, very frightening for people to discuss. And I think what I did is I framed it, I explained it, and then I provided language for people to speak about it with confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question about it. And maybe you can do that for our audience a little bit. I mean, the problem that we have, as you just suggested, with all of these issues, is very difficult to talk about, particularly when you're shouted down by a progressive left for even sort of getting in the vicinity of this conversation. What's the bumper sticker for you of critical race theory?
Yeah, I think, you know, and if you want to dig more, I actually put together a briefing book. It's available on my website. You can just type in critical race theory briefing book on Google. I think it'll be the first hit. But you have to understand a couple of key things. One is just to know what critical race theory is. So how do you define critical race theory? Critical race theory is an academic discipline that holds that the United States was founded on white supremacy and racial oppression, and that those forces are still at the root of our society today. So consequently, critical race theorists argue that all American institutions, even though they pay lip service to freedom and equality and other values, are really just mechanisms and camouflages for naked racial oppression. And that is the ultimately reducible variable of all social experience in the United States. The other key component of critical race theory is that it really derives from the philosophical tradition of Marxism and revives this Marxist idea of the oppressor and the oppressed. But instead of the class categories of the proletariat and the bourgeoisie or the worker and the capitalist, they've replaced those with the racial categories of black and white. So you can think of critical race theory as a form of race-based Marxism. And if you want to have a phrase that is just 3 words, race-based Marxism, I think is accurate, it's punchy, it's effective. And then you can go through all of those core concepts. And a lot of the stuff is, you know, in a school, they may not say, hey, kindergartners, we're teaching a lesson on critical race theory. But you know it's critical race theory if it traffics in the core concepts of critical race theory. So if you hear white privilege, whiteness, white fragility, internalized white supremacy, systemic racism, equity, anti-racism, unconscious bias, not so much, but a whole series of these phrases that you've probably heard a lot about, gone into hyperdrive in the last year. Most of those phrases are derived from the literature and the work of the critical race theorists.
That's just amazing. That's a great explanation. It's distilled down as I've heard it. I got to ask you, you've had an incredible career, right? You're a documentarian. You had a bunch of stuff going on. I'm sure you did not see yourself as leading this fight. And how did you get into it? How did you know that it was going to be of such significance to what you ultimately have done with your life over the last year?
Yeah, I didn't. It was really by accident, and I think that life works that way. And you know, I'm a filmmaker, a documentarian, a storyteller, a writer, and I think what's important is that that life, you can't plan everything in your life. Things happen, and you have to adjust. You have to seize the moment when it arrives. And this all happened because I received a tip. I was reporting a lot on homelessness in West Coast cities. So I had developed a reputation as a critic of some of these homelessness policies that you find in Seattle and LA and San Francisco. And from that, a source reached out to me, and he or she said, hey, Chris, you really need to look at the Interrupting Whiteness and Internalized White Supremacy training program that's conducted by the City of Seattle's Office of Civil Rights. And it was outside of my beat, but it sparked my interest. It says, wow, this seems, just from the title alone, this seems very odd, you know, that they would be putting all of these city employees through this program. So I filed a records request. I got the records request back over time. And it was like unlocking it was unlocking this hidden world of ideology that was not only shocking in the content, but also shocking in the context, because it's administered by a city government, not by a religious cult or a kind of, the Black Panther Party. I mean, this is a Office of Civil Rights.
Yeah, it's a government office.
A government office that is trafficking in racial stereotypes, racial scapegoating, and these kind of really pernicious tropes and stereotypes. And I was kind of wondering at that time, well, what should I do about this? So I said, you know what? I'll write a piece for City Journal. I'll throw it on Twitter, see what happens. And the story just exploded.
Yeah.
And it exploded like nothing I had ever done before. And then I thought, wow, that's kind of an interesting thing. It's maybe a one-off cool thing that happened. Made the rounds in the media. It was kind of fun couple weeks, I guess, that the story was alive. But then something else happened. I started getting tens, 20s, hundreds, and then thousands of leakers and whistleblowers from other institutions across the country. And I realized this isn't a one-off. This isn't something that's just in the city of Seattle. This is something that's happening under the surface everywhere, including at the highest levels of the federal government. And then I basically said, this is the direction I'm going. I'm going to chase this story and see where it ends up.
Amazing. Well, you've done an incredible job. You wrote an op-ed last week that was basically amongst other things, urging parents to continue their fight, because we've seen, as a result of your reporting and I think subsequent interest across the country, a whole lot of parents showing up at school boards with renewed interest in this topic. And we've seen it on cable news and everything else. I mean, these are starting to be heated, and at very least, parents seem engaged in this. Where do you think we are in terms of this fight? Is this are parents winning this fight? Is sanity beginning to prevail, or, are we just kind of continuing to roll a boulder up a hill?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. I mean, I didn't expect this reaction, frankly. I was reporting, especially on schools, starting in January. I did, a report a week just to try to get out the information. I think the series of reports that I did generated about 250 million direct media impressions. So they really changed the conversation. They really reached a lot of people. But I had no idea that that reporting, plus a lot of other people who are working on this issue, obviously not just me alone, would lead to this grassroots revolt. I mean, it really is a grassroots revolt. It's multiracial. You see parent groups that are, white, Black, Asian American, Hispanic. All of the different racial groups are now rallying to this fight. You see it as a bipartisan thing. It's not just in red states and red school districts and suburban areas. It's in Midtown Manhattan. It's in downtown Los Angeles. It's in the city of San Francisco. So you see this incredibly broad coalition that's forming, and they're taking action with no direction, with no coordination, with no organizing. It has generated so much enthusiasm, so much heat, that people are inspired to take action. And for me, it's been a revelation. It's been inspiring because you realize that the world is still functions as it should. Parents should be involved in their kids' education. Parents should care what's being taught in the schools. And voters and taxpayers should be the ultimate authorities over public institutions, especially public schools. And I think that what we're seeing is there's a fight not just about critical race theory. The fight is truly about who rules. Does the bureaucracy rule? Do the unelected diversity and inclusion commissars rule? Or do the people rule? Do voters rule? Do taxpayers rule? Do parents rule? And the dynamic is fighting over the issue of critical race theory. But the institutional challenge right now is really one of who gets to decide in our democracy. And I am absolutely heartened and fired up that the American people, despite what they've been through, especially lately, especially with lockdowns and other efforts that have really demoralized people, are now starting to say, you know what, these are our schools, this is our money, these are our kids, and we're going to actually decide what happens in our institutions. And there's nothing that's more American, that's more democratic, that's more inspiring than that.
Yeah, well said. Well said. You love to see it. One of the things that I've really appreciated about the way you've conducted yourself during this entire year plus that you've been doing this is that you're willing to go talk to anybody, right? This is not, not showing up on primetime and Fox News exclusively. You went to Joy Reid at MSNBC. And I mean, if most people who've heard your name, they probably heard your name during the context of that interview. But I mean, you had to know when you go in and you're talking to somebody like Joy Reid about critical race theory, she's going to act like a lunatic, and yet you still showed up and traded blows. I mean, it was really impressive.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think that there's something to be said for engaging the other side. For a long time, the other side refused to engage with me. But I think as this issue has really dominated headlines, they've decided that they want to engage, they want to take some shots, and I'm willing to get in the ring. You know, I'm happy to go on Joy Reid. I'm happy to go on Mark Lamont Hill. I'm organizing, hopefully we'll see how the details work out, some other appearances on what I think are, hostile media.
I love that you love it. That's great.
I had the New Yorker come out and visit me in my home, in my hometown, write a profile. And I'm not afraid of these folks. And I think that what I've learned and my strategy is, if you're going to engage with me in good faith, in a debate or a discussion, I'm going to be open. I'm going to be willing to make concessions, willing to make arguments, willing to engage in the same spirit of good faith and productive disagreement. I think the New Yorker profile was fair. I really respect the reporter, Ben Wallace-Wells. I was very open with him. I spoke to him for 4 hours, didn't censor myself, was very open. And then there are people like Joy Reid who aren't very open, or the Washington Post, which wrote this atrocious hit piece against me.
That was incredible, by the way.
Come at me like that, I'm going to come at you 10 times harder. I mean, I can be the nicest and most open and genuine guy, but if you come after me, I'm going to make you pay a price. And the Washington Post, for example, wrote this hit piece that was filled with obvious falsehoods, and I attacked them relentlessly until they retracted or added 6 paragraphs in the story. They reversed a key claim. They admitted to fabricating a key timeline. They made this claim that saying that that virtually all white people contribute to racism isn't the same thing as saying that all white people are racist. I mean, at the end of the time that I started beating up on the Washington Post, they actually had to dispatch their vice president of communications to do damage control. Because I had
talk about regret.
You know, and it's like, that's how this is though. I mean, it's you can't be a one-dimensional human being.
Yeah.
You can't just argue and fight. You can't just kind of be conciliatory and be genuine. You have to be able to modulate. You have to be able to dance. And I think it's been, it's sometimes, I'll admit it. I mean, sometimes it's frightening, right? You have all these media organizations coming after you. You know, you get that kind of feeling in your stomach, like, all right, let's gear up for this. This is my first time going through the national media gauntlet, but it's been fun to train. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like intellectual street fighting. I mean, you really are training for it, and you're really getting out there. And, you know, I'm sure eventually I'll take some hits, I'll take some blows, but so far I've been able to outmaneuver these folks. And I think conservatives should have confidence that, especially on an issue like this, most people are on our side, that the facts and evidence and truth are also on our side. And the key virtue that's required is courage. And if you have that, you can really make a difference in this today's politics.
Well said, Chris. You're the warrior that sane people need in insane times. So we really appreciate it. I got 3 big questions for you that we ask all of our guests. We're going to get to know you a little bit, right? So this is like, you know, we learned all the good stuff. Now we're going to get to the who's Chris, right? So your last meal on Earth, what would it be?
Oof, my last meal on Earth, you know, it's a strange thing. You know, I'm Italian, and grew up in an Italian household, ate a lot of Italian food, but my wife is Thai, and she's like converted me to Thai food over the years. So I would say my last meal would be a huge like Thai banquet with all of the good Thai delicacies.
That's pretty good. She must be a pretty persuasive person for an Italian. Go from Italian guy. If you're not going with Italian food, she's got to be pretty persuasive.
A lot tougher than the New York Times and a lot tougher than the Washington Post. She's very tough. Yeah.
I love it. All right. So second question, if you never got into this, let's say if you never got into like documentary filmmaking and the storytelling aspect of what you've been doing, what do you think you'd be doing with your life?
You know, I wonder. It's like alternate histories, right? I wonder what I would have done. I mean, I think that there was a time I thought I might be a music producer. That was I was coming out of college. I was kind of deciding what to do, and I was a musician. I love music. I have an eye for kind of production, and I think in another life, had certain things gone a different way, that's probably what I would be doing.
That's an interesting answer. That's a good one too. So you're always in the production though. I mean, the production piece of it is a key component to who you are.
That's right.
All right. Third question. This one boils it down. What motivates Chris Rufo more, the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat?
Yeah, I mean, the thrill of victory, it has to be that, because, you know, I think that I don't view the agony of defeat as a permanent state of being. I think that defeat is always temporary, and you really want to reach for that victory. And I think one of the things that especially conservatives need to understand and to feel is that feeling of victory, that feeling of winning, that feeling of moving the ball down the field. And I think conservatives have been playing defense for so long that they've internalized, and maybe we've internalized, this sense of forestalling defeat or slowing down a kind of slow losing. But what I'm trying to demonstrate to people through my actions and through my collaboration with lawmakers is we can actually take initiative and go on offense. And it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more exciting. And actually, we can change the country for the better. And we can deliver greater autonomy and control and confidence for American families that desperately need some new leadership. And they're desperate to be protected against these ideologies that are coming from above and trying to impose themselves on most people. And that really, I think, is what motivates me as I've thought about this issue. It's like, I think about my neighbors, I think about my friends, I think about people in my community. And I think, what can I do to protect their interests, to protect their families, to protect their values? And that keeps me going, and that keeps me excited every day.
Well, you're doing it, buddy. And I couldn't be more proud of the work that you're doing. Listen, come on anytime. Update us anytime. You got new stuff. You want to come back, we'll chat again. I've really enjoyed this. Chris Rufo, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Josh.
So that guy's smart.
Good interview.
I mean, that guy's really, really smart. And, you know, the thing I was interested to get his take on was, you know, how'd you get into this? How did you sort of fall into a place where you went from producing documentaries for PBS and being a scholar at the Manhattan Institute to being like enemy number one on the left? And, you know, his explanation about that the government of Seattle and the material that they were putting out, having just opening his eyes. I mean, that's important stuff. He's really doing good work.
I think the thing that's very interesting about the critical race theory, you know, debate right now, or basically the fight over it in our schools, is, you know, the left can't really decide whether it exists or if it's a thing, you know, that is good. You know what I mean?
No. And they can't cross back and forth.
Right. They can't decide whether critical race theory is even a thing, right? But and you know, one thing I wanted to add into this is that now they're sort of saying the quiet part loud. The NEA, the largest teachers union in the country, has put out a new document vowing to fight back against the critics. Yeah, the critics of critical race theory. So at least now, you know, they're admitting it's a thing that exists and that they're trying to force on all of our children.
At least we have that when they say it doesn't exist.
Right. I just think, you know, this is a thing that is obviously not going away. And so, you know, we'll keep...
It's racism.
It is.
That's what it is. It's racism.
It is.
It's judging somebody entirely on the color of their skin. And I don't know what happened somewhere between the 1950s and today, where all of a sudden all the progress that could have been made was evaporated and turned into a full racial.
Yeah, you saw Columbia had their during their graduation, they're like, we want to have a separate graduation for our black students, for our white students, for our Asian students. It's like, what? Separate but equal is back?
It's
separate but equal is
woke and racist. We actually agree.
Like, I literally want to be like, have you guys heard of Brown v. Board?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of that Supreme Court decision? Like, it's 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
And that is the great irony of this whole thing, is that the people saying we don't teach history about race in America.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It is not only nuts, but they seem to be the most ignorant of our basic history on this topic.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be the educators too.
Right.
That's the horrific part.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, it's a good episode, fellas.
Yeah. Banger of an episode. Good to have everyone back after the 4th of July. Hope everyone had a great holiday. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.